Today we're having a look at another Dagestani-born fighter, now living and training in Manchester, England, described as the protege to the great Khabib Nurmagomedov. Ibragim Ibragimov has been nothing short of dominant in his career thus far. He only turned pro in August of 2021 and has already amassed an undefeated record of 8 professional wins, with 6 finishes and 2 wins in the Professional Fighters League. Now with the eyes set on being the youngest PFL world champion, while also as of today only being 20 years of age, we'll have a look at the highlights of the mauler, Ibragim Ibragimov. Ibragim got his start to mixed martial arts in Sambo, wrestling, and just basically all the disciplines, accustomed to the Dagestan and Chechen fighter stereotypical background, competing and training since his youth, and actively competing in wrestling and Sambo since his early teens. Nonetheless, Ibragim would debut to amateur MMA in 2019, and it wouldn't actually be the Dagestani influence that would get him into MMA. Instead, Manchester Top Team, where Ibragim was living at the time, and his coaches would push him to get into mixed martial arts with the background in combat that he had. And at the time, he was only 15 years old, competing as a bantamweight. And whereas most of us spend our 15th year complaining about high school, by 16, Ibragimov was 7-0 as an amateur, competed all across Europe, had captured a featherweight regional title for Celtic Gladiator, and decided, what the hell, it was time to become a professional mixed martial artist. And at this point in his career, still a teenager, he was showing the same style of the dominant wrestlers that came before him, using the right hand to get in on takedown attempts, but then using takedown attempts to land his striking. Ibragimov was light years ahead of his age, and he still is at only 20 years old competing in the PFL, but nonetheless, at this time, just turning pro, he was already coined the mauler and had already trained with some of the best mixed martial artists around the world. And it wasn't specific just to Dagestan, training at Manchester Top Team and also traveling the world to get in some of the best training experience he possibly could as a mixed martial artist. Nonetheless, with the large background in amateur MMA and his huge combat portfolio as a youth, he would open up his career with 2 straight first-round ground and pound stoppages before continuing his dominance across Europe and finding himself in Caged Steel, where he would compete on back-to-back events 32 and 33, with 33 being a main event title opportunity. Interestingly, the title would only be 3 5-minute rounds, and it'd be 3 rounds of complete domination for Ibragim, who would take his opponent down constantly, land ground and pound, and at the end of the 3rd round, he would put a statement on the performance, landing a head kick and massive stand-up. He was not able to get the finish, but successfully captured the CS Lightweight Championship, which would be his first and only regional title, because the PFL would pick him up immediately following this fight to compete on their Europe Prospect show. But even with the step up in competition, it would prove no match for Ibragim Ibragimov. He would finish his first opponent in under a minute, announcing himself to PFL fans before getting a big fight against Nacho Campos. Again, most of these fighters have a wide experience advantage, and Ibragim treats them like they're prospects that don't even deserve to be in the same cage. Again, showcasing his takedowns, showcasing his ground and pound, and though he doesn't get a crazy amount of finishes, his fights are still action-packed. He successfully lands ground and pound like the great Khabib Nurmagomedov did before him. We now sit with Ibragimov signed and competing for one of the best MMA promotions in the world, and boasting a combined 15-0 mixed martial arts career across both amateur and professional MMA. And at only 20 years of age, having trained and molded his style to look like Khabib Nurmagomedov, the ceiling for Ibragim Ibragimov could not be higher. He now plans to compete in PFL Europe, and if all goes well, win the championship there and go on to the Global Series to become a PFL champion. But let me know your guys' opinion on the British Dagestani-born fighter. How far do you think he can go? Do you ever think he'll end up in the Ultimate Fighting Championship? Because I'm not gonna lie, I believe he has all the tools to make that happen. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and I will see you in the next one.